Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 281 of the Juicebox Podcast. Today's show is sponsored by Dexcom, Omnipod, and Dancing for Diabetes. Please go to myomnipod.com/juicebox, dexcom.com/juicebox, or dancing4diabetes.com to find out more. There are also links in your show notes and at juiceboxpodcast.com. Today, Alexi Melvin is on the show, and there's a lot about Alexi to know. First and foremost, she's on the show today because she just ran in the New York City Marathon with type 1 diabetes. But she's also got so many things about her that are interesting, and I love her spirit and her soul, and I just thought of her right away when I saw the marathon being run. I thought I want to have somebody on who ran the marathon with type 1, and Alexi leapt to mind. This is going to be wonderful. The one thing I need to tell you about is I had a major malfunction of my computer network. So around 18 minutes in, there'll be a break in the conversation. We'll pick it back up again. But my voice is going to sound a little different after that. And it's just, I'll tell you if you want. It only recorded my voice in mono, so I had to take 2 mono tracks and meld them together to make a stereo track. So basically, you were only going to hear my voice out of your left earphone, but I fixed it so it'll also come out of the right, but gave up a tiny bit of sound quality to make that happen. Anyway, I apologize. I don't know what happened. Maybe it's time for a new computer. I don't have enough money to buy a new computer, but maybe it's time anyway. Anyway, a couple things. Nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise. Always consult a physician before making any changes. Oh, I tried to beat the music. Nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise. Always consult a physician before making any changes to your healthcare plan or becoming bold with insulin. Alexi is going to unpack her life in the first bit of the podcast, and then we'll get to the marathon at the end. But there's a lot of interesting stuff about her. She's really, really a great person. I enjoy knowing her.
I am Alexi Melvin. I am a writer, voice actress, many other things, many forms of art. I wear many hats, and I am also living with type 1 diabetes.
When were you diagnosed?
I was diagnosed when I was 14, so that would have been 2003.
Wow, 2003 plus 14.
Yeah.
So then I know your age now if I wanted to.
Well, hey, I'm 30. I'm almost 31. I still feel like I'm 14-ish. So.
I was going to say, if it makes you feel good, you look like you're 15. So
I do hear that often. And it's so weird because when I was 17, 16, I looked a lot older. And now I'm Benjamin Buttoning. I don't know what's happening.
Ooh, maybe you'll be one of those people who's perpetually 29 years old in their face. That would be nice.
Oh, that'd be great.
I would take that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'll take it.
Let's see. Any other diabetes in your family?
No.
Nothing. Just the great surprise. Brothers, sisters, anything like that?
I am an only child.
Very nice. So you were just a 1 in a million shot. And how involved, or I know it's been a long time now, but how involved or not involved were your parents during the first years?
I've always felt really supported, but pretty much right from the get-go, my mom thought it would be best for me to do everything myself. She would help. I remember we had those little old school, nutrition books where we would figure out the carbs because, Googling it was not really a thing back then yet.
Right.
And she would always help me with stuff like that. But she never gave me a shot or anything. I started doing that myself right off the bat. But emotionally, I've always felt very, very supported.
So can I tell you, as a person who's never met you in person, but we have talked a little bit in the past, you seem on your front-facing social media being, you seem very confident, and not in a bad way, not in a that girl seems full of herself way, not like that, in a way where you're this is me, and I like me, and that's it. You have a real air about you that you were raised well, or that you have mature, healthy self-confidence. Do you feel like that, or are you just taking great selfies? Which is it?
No, that's awesome to hear.
Yeah.
If you ask anybody who went to school with me from, middle school, high school, even probably college, they would say that I was very mysterious would probably be the wrong word. Awkward. I was pretty socially awkward. And I didn't really talk to many people. I just kind of like did my work and put my head down. But once I got involved with the type 1 community, it did kind of build my confidence a lot. I've lived with this thing for many years, as I've said, and it's great to see all these other people just putting it out there, and it's something that I like connecting to other people about. It's something that it's not going away right now, at least, and it's something that's going to be it's going to be around, unfortunately, probably for another few years at least. But it's just nice. I don't know. It does really build my confidence. And social media has its flaws, but in this case, it's very cool. I've made a lot of friends. I've been able to get involved with a lot of really cool things for the community, and I think that's what you're talking about. Honestly, I think like type 1 has really it was the source of my confidence, and that was sort of later in life, I would say.
When you found the connection with people, do you think the connection, the knowing they were there, that part of it, the community part, was what hit you well? Or do you think, and maybe it's both, do you think it was watching other people be kind of open about it that made you feel like I could do that too?
It was watching people be open about it. It was also just the sense of feeling heard, like mm-hmm. I had two very, very successful, talkative, friendly, awesome parents that sort of always, were in the spotlight, and I kind of was never in the spotlight. And now I have this thing that people, can connect to, and it makes me feel like I have something to say. And that's a good feeling, because I definitely used to not feel that way.
So by the way, I'm going to have to buckle down here. You're going to give good answers this whole hour. And then I'm going to look up for something else and be like, oh God, what did she say? And then try to fill something in. So now I'm picking something on my desk to stare at while we're talking. So a couple of things. You felt behind the scenes. Did you feel unseen as a child?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did. Yeah, the short answer is yes.
So I know what your dad does for a living, and we'll share it with people in a second, but you said your mom and your dad. What did your mom do?
My mom, she was a model for a long time, and she's been in the fashion industry. She's really just a great mom, but she kind of stopped working when I was born, pretty much. But she's just always the life of the party. People adore her. She always had this natural ability to be social and win people over, and I was kind of just, hiding behind her.
Okay. I get that. I do. And I think that you can have, I think everybody at first feels like that, right? That idea of I'm sort of just here. I'm the short person behind these taller people, and they get to talk, and I wait for my opening. But then I think about my mom. My mom was not commanding space. You know what I mean? She wasn't walking in and people weren't like, oh my God, Bev's here. Let's all listen to what she has to say now. She wasn't that person. I can imagine that happening, because I see it sometimes. I'm just talkative, and sometimes I have to stop myself when my kids and I are all in a setting together, because I'm I'm sucking the air out of this moment.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like nobody sees anybody else because I'm talking.
Right.
But I can stop talking. Your mom can't stop being hot, I guess, for the lack of a better term. and so people get attracted to that too. Right. I do. I'm oh, look, that person's handsome. And you're I wonder what they have to say. We do it all the time. Mm-hmm. We think British people are smart, and we think handsome people know something. It's how you're wired, Now, yeah. How much time did you spend around your dad's business?
I've never been, I'm not, I always say I'm not a baseball fan, but I'm supportive. So, I'll go to games here and there. I wouldn't say I go to a lot. When I was little, I probably thought it was a little more fun, but, definitely important games, playoff games, events, I'll definitely be there for. But I always loved sort of being around it because I loved traveling. So, whatever city he was in during the summer, we would always be there. We always had a home base in Arizona, but yeah, I loved it. It was fun. It allowed me to sort of discover my, really my passions, like traveling, and then, whatever city we would be in, my mom would take me to some kind of, arts and culture thing. And I would, that's where I discovered that I loved Broadway musicals. And, so it really afforded me a lot.
Yeah. I guess if you were just in Arizona, you might discover you love cactuses and, things like that. So it's good.
Sure. Yeah. That would have been a very different path. Yeah.
But it's really something like, I hear people say it all the time, and someone just said it to me recently, like people who think that traveling with your children is a waste of time. It's really not. It's doing things for them that you probably are not getting paid back for in the moment per se. But it's building them in great ways. And
right.
So I guess, so you don't wake up in the morning. For people who don't have a connection like this, you don't wake up in the morning and think, my dad coaches the Oakland A's.
No, I can't remember the last time that was my first thought in the morning. No.
Exactly. But it's true. Like I used to joke with people. I met somebody very famous one day and we walked away and I said, in the morning when that guy is giving his kids like breakfast and he's too slow, they don't think, oh my God, there's an all-star shortstop feeding me breakfast. They think,
right.
They think, why is dad screwing this up? But that doesn't change the impact around him. So was he,
right.
So when he traveled a lot, you were probably with your mom more than him?
Mm-hmm. Oh, 100%. Yeah. Okay. I was tied at the hip with my mom pretty much until graduated high school.
Gotcha. All right. So at what age do you say to yourself, like, I'm going to get more involved in the diabetes space, and how did that begin?
I was involved pretty much right away. There were just less opportunities. I remember seeing flyers for JDRF walks and stuff like that pretty early on. So I would do things like that. My mom and I would volunteer at things, which felt great, but there was still not so much that sense of, connecting that there is now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was JDRF, for a while.
It was the first
and then
place. Yeah.
That was the first thing. And I even, at a certain point, kind of did some like volunteer recruitment stuff. And it felt good. I liked it. And then at a certain point, Beyond Type 1 popped up, and they were kind of doing more of the rock and roll thing. Like, like how does Type 1 impact your sex life? And they would be posting stuff like that. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I wound up just kind of reaching out to them and freelance writing for them.
Nice.
And so from there I got involved with more things they were doing, leadership council, stuff like that. Eventually they sort of just, I just kind of wore them down, and they, hired me as a staff writer. And
Alexi's always here. So why don't we just let her do something?
That's exactly their inner monologue.
It's a viable way to get a job, by the way. If you can get your first foot in the door, just be like, I'm not leaving. So
I'm not leaving. Yeah. So and I'm the content committee chairperson, which is also cool. So yeah, I'm contributing, and that was I guess it was really when Beyond Type 1 kind of rolled around that I was like, oh, okay, this is a thing. Yeah.
Is Beyond Type 1 a living, or is it just a piece of how you support yourself?
I would say it's the most consistent piece. Mm-hmm. I get pretty steady work from them. It's not a ton, but it's reliable, and then otherwise I do, the voice acting stuff and other freelance writing, and yeah.
Well, I remember when you and I were talking more in the past, it was right around the time where your voice was going to be in a Star Wars movie. And I was like, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Which movie were you in?
I was in Rogue One, and I was in Last Jedi.
And are you allowed to say if you're going to be in the next one?
I'm not allowed to say.
If you're... Go ahead. I want to hear how you talk around it.
I will say that they're within the Star Wars franchise. I might have some things to announce soon.
That's so cool.
And yeah, I will tell you about it.
And this really feeds into your passion too, because you're like a serious like Disney head. Like I've probably texted you 3 times in my life and you've been at Disney in one way or the other.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I've been a Disney enthusiast since I can remember. And, you know, the dream for me was always to be in a Disney movie. And now I am. I've been in 2 of them, but I never in a million years thought it would be Star Wars because, you know, like it wasn't like it wasn't. It just, you know, fairly recently became officially Disney.
Right.
It's just such a weird way that actually wound up happening, but really cool.
I honestly think it's strange that you and I are recording this on the morning that the Disney Plus platform
I know
announces. I just thought like, well, of course that's what happened. But
of course, yeah. I subconsciously arranged it that way.
You might have been like, let me pick a day in November. What's the best day in November?
What's the best day?
It's probably this date.
Yeah.
Well, do you travel when you go to Disney? Like, are you with friends? Do you go by yourself? I don't even know. Like, you're not married? Do you date? Like, who's with you usually when you're doing that stuff?
Gosh, it varies. I mean, everybody who is close to me knows that Disney is a thing for me, and most of them support it. I think some of them get tired of it a little more than others, but my mom loves it. She comes with me a lot. You know, I have maybe like 3 really close friends that are all into it, so they'll either, you know, meet me there. It's a good meeting place. You know, like I have one friend that lives in New York who will meet me in Orlando to go to Disney World. Or, you know, I have several friends that live in, I'm in Northern California. So I have several friends that are in Southern California and we'll meet there. So it's just, you know, I have options for sure.
So which is the better park?
Oh gosh. It's funny because the first park I went to was Disney World because when I was 2, we were living in Memphis, Tennessee. So that was way easier to get to. So like my earliest memories of the parks was, you know, Disney World and the Epcot ball and, you know, stuff like that. But I do, you know, Disneyland is the original and, you know, it has a little more history in that way. And I feel like it doesn't change quite as much. And
it's home, right? So
it's right. So, I mean, if I had to pick one park, I'd have to stay with the original.
I gotcha.
Yeah, but there's a lot to be appreciated about both.
So I bring it up because I want to understand. There's something I see online all the time that's sort of like fascinating to me. Actually, the topic doesn't matter. The intent of the question is the same, right? Do you ever hear people say, I've got diabetes figured out, but how do you do soccer? Or how do you do swimming? Or how do you do Disney? Disney's a big one. Like, I don't know. I'm about to go to Disney for the first time. What do I do when I get on an airplane? I always think like, I don't really think those things are different, but okay. Like somebody does, like somebody's having that feeling like I'm about to go somewhere different. Is diabetes going to change? Does your management from the way you're in your home or when you're exercising or getting ready for for the New York Marathon, is it any different than how you handle going to Disney for the day?
Oh gosh.
Like, do you do things or like there's special plans in place? Do you have contingencies going, or is it just you leave the house with your stuff?
I feel like, you know, the more active I'm going to be, I guess the more prepared I try to be. You know, and I'm still a little bit old school, so I am on long acting and fast acting insulin pens. So I'll try to cut down on my long acting if I know I'm going to be walking all day. You know, just little things like that. But otherwise, no, it seems pretty routine.
Similar, right? Yeah, I don't see the difference. I always just think of it as the need your body is going to have for the insulin. It'll have less need if you're active. It'll have more need if you're not. And if it's hot out, you might need a little less. Like it's okay. That's about where my computer blew up. And it's a good time to tell you about Omnipod, the world's only tubeless insulin pump. It's very simple. If you're thinking of leaving shots or you want to change pumps, go to myomnipod.com/juicebox because Omnipod's going to offer you a free, no obligation demo of the Omnipod. All you do is fill out the tiniest bit of information about yourself, and Omnipod will send a demo pod right to your home. There you can try it on and see what you think. You can shower with it, exercise, run around the house, rough house with your kids. You know, if you're going to put it on one of your kids, maybe you take them and like slide them across the, the floor a little bit. Don't hurt them, but I mean like a smooth floor, like wood, like a linoleum kind of a situation. You put like a sweatshirt on them, you can just slide them right across the floor. It's completely safe as long as they don't hit the wall on the other end. Anyway, you live your life with the pod on, and you can see what you think. Then if you like it, you contact Omnipod and you say, look, I want to keep going with this. I love this thing. Let's give it a whirl. My daughter's been using the Omnipod since she was 4 years old. Arden is 15 right now. She has been wearing an Omnipod every day for all of that time, having amazing success with her blood sugars. And I think you might like it as well. Check them out. myomnipod.com/juicebox, or the links in your show notes, or at juiceboxpodcast.com. Live your life untethered with Omnipod, right? Not connected to any tubes, not having to carry an insulin pen around, that kind of stuff. Oh, also one last thing. Nothing I said about sliding your kid across the floor is endorsed by Omnipod or me, to be honest with you. I really don't think it's a good idea. It's just something I used to do with my son, and I thought I'd say it here, but then after I said it, I realized, maybe I shouldn't have said that. I have an old cell phone video of him sliding across the floor. If I can find it, I'll put it online. But I digress, and I jump right into the Dexcom ad. Dexcom G6, the continuous glucose monitor from the gods that's passed right down from the stars to you. Here's what you get when you wear the Dexcom G6. Continuous look at what your blood sugar is. Not just the number, but the speed and direction that it is moving. Invaluable information to have when you're making decisions about using insulin or eating food. The difference between a blood sugar that's 80 and 80 and falling is huge. You're not touching an 80 that's nice and stable. You're looking at that thinking, woohoo, I won. But if it's falling, you might want a couple carbs. Dexcom can make that an easier decision for you, a much easier decision. Not only that, they can help you make that decision wherever you are in the world. And by that, I mean if you're the parent or guardian of a loved one, even a friend of someone with type 1 diabetes, with an Apple or Android phone, right? With any compatible Apple or Android phone, you can see someone else's blood sugar no matter where they are. And that is just a comfort that is hard to put into words. So between the speed and the direction, not having to finger stick to find out what your blood sugar is, and being able to see a loved one's blood sugar no matter where in the world they are, I don't know how you argue with Dexcom. You gotta have it, I think. Dexcom G6 continuous glucose monitor. Get it at dexcom.com/juicebox today. It is an absolutely, I said it before, indispensable part of your life with type 1 diabetes. Last thing, going to put all the ads here today. Dancing for Diabetes. Check them out. dancingfordiabetes.com. That's dancing, the number 4, diabetes.com. They're also on Instagram and Facebook. Please give them a follow. They are a wonderful organization doing incredible things for people living with type 1 diabetes. And now, as they used to say in the 50s, back to our show. Okay. Well, that was incredibly weird. Sorry about that.
The interview was just too powerful.
I can't possibly be true, but we're just getting warmed up. So,
I
was about to say that, God, what I was about to say, I'm trying to go back to where I was in my head. It's not easy. Why don't we just start over again?
Oh, God.
You
were saying about the parks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that people like unnecessarily get scared about, going somewhere. And that's, I kind of find it sad a little bit. Like, I'm like, oh God, it's not that bad,
Yeah, I can understand from people who get really deep into routines because, to a certain extent, you how your body's going to respond to certain things during the day, what your blood sugar is going to kind of do with certain foods. Like, I understand that, but it's no fun. You have to sort of get out there and, you can still have something of a routine. You can still find things that work, like, dietary, stuff around the park. It's not that hard.
Right.
Like you can do it.
Also, you said that you called yourself old school. Uh-huh. So, pens and long acting insulin, but do you use Dexcom?
Yes. Oh, okay. I'm not a cave person. Yes. I use Dexcom.
So that's interesting. So tell me about your decision to stay with MDI for all these years. Like, it's obviously working for you. So why do you like it?
I guess you just said it. I mean, it works for me. It's not for lack of, appreciation for how technology has progressed over the years. I think it's amazing. I mean, I have several friends that are now looping and stuff like that, and it's fascinating. I'm somebody who tends to wait, a year, 2 years until something's really more perfected. That's just kind of how I roll. But it's, I've tried pumps and I can see the benefits. I kind of got paranoid, I think, about, with long-acting insulin, you always have something working in you. And, I had way too many instances where, I had a problem with my sight and I was just getting no insulin at all. Yeah. So my blood sugar would just be crazy high, probably more than it was in range. So, I would try it again.
Are you kind of waiting for automation? Do you think your next jumping in point? Like some sort of a closed loop system or something like that?
Yeah. If it was perfected, and people were, having great experiences with it, then yeah, I feel like I would try that out.
Got you. That's cool. I mean, I think you have to do whatever you're comfortable with. And,
same.
Absolutely. What's it like traveling with pens? Like, do you have to keep them cool? And how do you handle all that?
I mean, the pens you're currently using, you can just have them out in your purse. But, I definitely travel with a couple extras. Brio cooling wallet things, those little, that's usually fine for shorter flights. Longer trips, I try to, bring an ice pack or something. And I've never had an issue. The one tricky thing is if hotel fridges are too cold, they can definitely freeze insulin. So that's something to look out for. But,
there's a person that's listening to the show that just happened to them. They were in New York and they were on social media like, I'm in New York and all my insulin got frozen in the hotel. And they're like, it was very cool. Somebody brought them insulin. You're like a complete stranger. So
yeah, I've heard of. Oh my gosh, yeah, that's another cool thing about the community.
Yeah, that's just an amazing. Like if you got on Facebook right now and you're like, I need an Advil. No one would bring you one. But if you're like, I need insulin, people are like, all right, well, I'll drive the first 50 miles and then somebody else can pick it up and move it along. And it's very cool how people jump into action.
Absolutely.
Amazing, actually. All right. So let us not, bury the lead any more or less. I asked you to come on, Alexi, because you did something that in my mind is insane. And I want to understand why you did it. And I want to know about how it went and how you prepared for it. So tell me about the day you thought to yourself, I'm going to run in the New York Marathon.
Yeah. Well, Beyond Type 1 has had a team for the New York City Marathon the past 2 years before now. So this was the third year. And they've done crazy stuff like this. They did, like Bike Beyond. They biked across the friggin' country, and I've always just been like, wow, more power to those people. Yeah. But, at a certain point, it kind of became clear to me that I wasn't really giving myself a shot in terms of athleticism, ever since I was diagnosed. Not that it was ever really that interesting to me, but I sort of realized that I hadn't ever considered it. Partly probably because my dad was the athlete in the family. I'm like, okay, that's his thing. But that was, the third year Beyond Type 1, putting together this team. They're starting to sort of release, flyers calling for submissions and things like that. And I'm like, that might actually be kind of interesting. I've always been athletic. I do yoga. I've been a power walker my whole life. I've never really been a runner, but, I get out there. I feel like I'm in good shape. And, but the thing that really sent it over the edge is that one of my best friends who also has type 1, decided to do it. And once she said that, I was like, okay, that might actually be a really cool experience to do this with somebody and, sort of hold each other accountable for training and, things like that. And I think I also had this kind of misconception that the people that would be on this team would all be kind of like influencers, like people that were kind of known in the type 1 world. And I don't feel like I'm that, like I'm involved, but I feel like people would be like, I don't really care about her. But I definitely realized that was not the case pretty soon after being accepted onto the team. But
just a lot of regular people.
A lot of regular people and a lot of really amazing athletes. I mean, there were people that were ultra marathoners and that had done Ironman races, and I had no idea. So it was definitely eye opening. But it was my friend who kind of convinced me in a number of ways to do it.
I have to tell you, I find that the idea of influencers to be like, it's a little weird. Like I wouldn't want someone calling me that, and I don't think of people that way. But I think there are some people who start out thinking, I'm going to help. And they get a little bit of notoriety and they're like, I wonder if there's like money I could make in this, or I wonder if I can push this further or help more. Like some people go the wrong way with it. And then they're just faces then. They're like, oh, I know that person. I see them and, all this stuff. But there are so many more people that you don't know who are actually involved in the events, actually handing out, food at a JDRF walk. Like those people, there's a million more of them than there is of, an Instagram model or something like that who happens to have diabetes.
I totally agree.
Yeah, and I think that's really the power of the space, honestly. I think the influencers could go away and the people would still exist. I don't think they need, I don't think they need a selfie deity to pray to. I think they can do it on their own.
I think probably, yeah.
Yeah. It's just I have nothing, like, don't get me wrong. I have nothing against people who are doing that. I think it's fine. People do whatever they want. They can impact the space, however they think is great.
It's a way of being able to use your voice. And that's fine. But yeah, it can get messy.
It also has a finite life. You don't realize that, but you can talk about it any way you want. I think a running back has a life of 2 years in the NFL. Do you know what I mean? Like your dad played professional baseball for a really long time. And still, I think he was in the league for maybe like 9 years as a player, right? And you would think that's not like a long time, but it is. It's a massively long time. Most people don't do that. And you even think about people who you think of as famous, like how quickly they're there and then they're gone. And you think, oh, they'll be back. That guy's like a great actor, but you never see him again. It's so. Yeah,
exactly. The number of actors that have actual staying power are actually very few.
Yeah.
If you think about it. So.
But if you look at like life like that too, it's the same thing. There is somebody on Instagram right now, just as an example, it could be anywhere, Facebook, Instagram, like something like that, who you think of as like, when you think of the diabetes community, you think of that person. Keep them in mind, and 18 months from now, you all know who they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, so I like the people who are, it's the trench work, like, right? Like it's the hard stuff. It's the actually being in the marathon thing, not the, hey guys, the marathon's coming up. Are you going to get involved? Because trust me, I'm not doing that. I thought about you this morning and I thought, if someone paid me to run to the end of my street, could I do it without stopping? I was like, I'm not 100% certain. So, right. But I'm sure I could one day. Were you a person who on day one thought like, I can run a marathon? You weren't, right?
No. Up until the day of the race, I was never 100% sure I could finish it. Because I didn't know what to expect. I mean, I think during my training, I only got up to like 12 miles. So I didn't know what was going to happen past 12 miles. I had no idea what my body was going to do. So
how far is the marathon?
It's 26.2 miles.
Doesn't make any sense what you just said to me, but I appreciate that. Now, how do you train for something like that? Like you just like, do you Google it, or do you find somebody to help you, or how did you handle it?
There are definitely training plans. You can just kind of, loose training plans that tell you how many miles to run each day, each week, and how it kind of sort of gradually goes up. I kind of followed one of those loosely, but the other runners on the team were very helpful, and we all kind of had a Facebook group. We kind of followed each other on the Strava app, so it was, you could always ask somebody for help or guidance in one way or another. But yeah, I didn't follow any plan too strictly. I just my mom had actually run it in 2011. So she had I kind of followed the same plan that she did, which was just kind of a very basic, if you Google training plan to run a marathon, it would just be that.
Do you have to change your nutrition much? Did you have to?
Yes. I have been somewhat of a low carb person, for 6-7 years now, I would say. Not to where I'm like on the keto level, but relatively low carb.
Right. You wouldn't punch me for eating a cupcake. You just
of course not. No, I have fun, and every now and then, and I'll have carbs, but I just kind of got into the routine, and it kind of it worked, whatever. But once I started training, I was like, yeah, this isn't going to work. So I definitely had to do some, experimenting and find the carbs that I liked again. And it was almost kind of like nostalgic, because I did love carbs before I was diagnosed. And so I was like, okay, what did I used to love? Like, what made me feel good? What made me feel energized back when I was 13, 14, So yeah, it was frustrating at times for sure, but also kind of fun.
Especially because I guess if you try something and it's not right, you're just like, oh, I wasted that. Like, I ate this thing that now I wish I didn't eat. And yeah. What did you land on? Like, what ended up being sort of the staple of how you fueled your body for it?
I found out that I kind of needed more carbs for breakfast, and a little bit of a lighter lunch, oddly, than I usually would eat before, but slightly more carbs. And then dinner didn't really change, but kind of like, breakfast and lunch, I kind of needed a little bit more. I found like a brown rice cereal that I really like. That kind of helped. And
how long was the process of training?
I started training, I want to say around, well, actually, I know exactly. It was April, because that's when I got a stress fracture.
It's the first time your body sent you an email and said, "Dear Alexi, we haven't been that active most of your life. I don't know if you've noticed. Please stop doing this."
Yeah. I definitely, I didn't even think I was going too hard, but after it happened, I was like, okay, I had always power walked, like I said, which is more, it's a different, you're using different muscles, like you're exerting, around the same amount of energy, but it's different muscles. So out of the gate, I was like, oh, I'll just start running. Yeah, that was not good. So I wound up getting a stress fracture in my heel when I did a 5K. And so I was 4 weeks in a walking boot. So that was my first, like, okay, I don't know if I'm going to be able to actually do this.
But I'm fascinated. After that happened and you got out of the walking boot, you're like, I'm going to try it again?
Yeah.
Why?
I mean, I didn't put any pressure on myself, but I was like, okay, I'm going to start, just start power walking it again and see, make sure I don't re-injure myself and kind of ease into it. And if it goes well, great. If it doesn't, I'll drop out and everybody will understand. But, my power walk, winds up being that of like, the pace of like a slow run. So I was like, okay, at the very least I can just do this.
Okay.
So it wound up being fine. I didn't get re-injured. That was the important thing. So
did your overall like physical health change while you were getting ready? Did you find yourself stronger or in better shape? Like, did you think, wow, this is great? Or were you just about building up those muscles that you would need for the endurance?
It did change a little bit, because I had primarily done a lot of yoga and a little bit of walking, before. And now I was, obviously doing primarily running and walking. So I feel like my upper body muscles actually kind of went down. And so I kind of had to pay extra attention to that too, because you do use it, you draw from your upper body too when you're tired. So I had to do kind of like extra things to make sure I wasn't like ignoring that part of my body. But apart from that, it fluctuated. Like at certain times I would feel like I was losing weight, that I would have to adjust sort of accordingly with my diet because that's not good. You need to sort of like be at a good weight to maintain all that. So it was never really, there were ups and downs.
Yeah. But I think it's really interesting to talk to you, a person who's not necessarily a runner or a distance runner, about doing the marathon, because it's interesting while you're talking, like to listen to you, you're sort of like, huh, yeah, that did happen. This is what happened after that. Like it's like, I prefer talking to you over somebody who's like, I run this thing every year and let me tell you how to do it, because it's just, that's a job to them then. Like this is a thing that you just, out of left field, no pun intended, I guess, did. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like you just sort of, you were like, I'm going to try this other thing now. And in the support of diabetes, like, was that your main goal because you were at Beyond Type 1 or because people you knew were doing it? Like, what was did you just want to see if you could?
I think it was all of those things. Yeah. I definitely I've always wanted to inspire people to try different things and not let Type 1 scare you, like kind of like what you're saying with like going to Disney parks, like, you know, and it's okay if I am not able to do this thing. At least I tried. Now I know, you know, but it's obviously kind of on a bigger scale. And like I said before, I wanted to see if I was an athlete. Like, what if I really did like doing marathons? What if I wanted to really explore running? That's, you know, let me give myself this shot.
I think about that all the time. I'm going to cut you off for a second. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Like, what if I'm a great piano player and I don't know because I've never tried to play the piano? Like,
exactly.
You know, and I don't think I am. But I mean, that's my point. Like, what if, right? Like, can I play the guitar and I just have never tried? Like that. I think you have to be like whimsical like that sometimes.
Yes, exactly. And I was almost a little bit mad at myself because I've always been so, you know, in the school of thought that you know, people with Type 1 should not limit themselves. But I was like, I think I was kind of limiting myself without even really thinking about it in school. Like I never, you know, I never tried to be on a sports team. I never, you know, I even got like a note to get out of PE altogether one year. Like, why did I do that? You know? So
no kidding. You're like, I need a note that says something to the effect of, Lexi has a problem with something, you fill in the blanks, and she cannot be in gym this year. Did that work? Did you get out of gym?
I did. Yep.
Do you remember? Okay, it's a little bit of a sidebar, but do you remember why you wanted to get out? Just because you didn't enjoy it?
I think my endocrinologist said, like, oh, hey, if you want to get out of gym, you can. I was like, oh, okay, well, why not then? Like, I can use that time for another class that I really care about, you know.
Are there any other things that this diabetes will get me into or out of? Please let me know.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I was like, oh, sounds good. Awesome. Good plan.
Well, that's fascinating. And shows a little bit of how far we've come. You know what I mean? That somebody, I don't think someone, God, I hope somebody wouldn't say that to somebody at this point. Like,
no, definitely not.
Oh my God. But look at you. You were like industrious. You're like, yeah, sure. I'll get out of gym. Yeah. I'll take that. Thank you.
Exactly. Take what you can get.
Oh, it's so great. Okay. So I'm fascinated by something you said earlier, and I feel like it keeps popping up into my head. You'd only ever run about 12 miles in practice. The race itself is over twice that distance. When you're standing at the starting line, what's going through your head?
When I was at the starting line, I really just wanted to get running, to be honest with you, because the worst part of that whole thing was the start village, where you had to go and wait for 4 hours before you could actually start, and it was freezing. So I guess in a way that kind of helped, because I was like, okay, just friggin' get this thing going. I have to get my body temperature up. I have to start running. So I wasn't really thinking about it at the time.
It was almost like anywhere is better than where we are right now.
Yeah. I wonder if that's actually like a strategy that they I don't really know. But it did help. It
reminded me of something that's just so sad I can't even bring it up. But you know, I just All right, I'm going to just say it anyway. You know,
Okay.
you know when you're seeing, it's such a sad thought, but you know every once in a while, like every 20 years, you'll see like a apartment fire, and it's so bad that people jump at the end, and you're like, wow, that's amazing. Like, I'm in a place that's so terrible
Hmm.
that something else that's terrible is preferable because at least I can buy myself a little bit of time before. I imagine you in that like village. I know that's not an apples to apples thing, but it popped into my head like going like, I'm freezing. I don't know if I can do this race. I really feel like this is going to go poorly. Why don't I just start running so I don't freeze to death? Like I have to
That's
try something. You know what I
that's
mean?
exactly it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's interesting. Maybe they do that on purpose. Okay, so once you're moving and you're warmed up, is your expectation you're going to finish? I mean, does it have to be, I guess, in your mind when you, like, you wouldn't have shown up that day if you didn't think you could do it, right? Or no?
Yeah. I mean, I would say I was like 60% sure that I could finish.
Based on,
Based on knowing my body and just being confident that I would sort of listen to it. And if, something was wrong, I could stop and really just the excitement too. I felt like I had a good amount of energy to carry me through.
gotcha. I've been
Adrenaline
pretty
is
excited
a
in my
thing.
life, Alexi. I don't think it would make me run 26 miles, but
Yeah, I was surprised that I had that mindset, but
was there a point in the race where you thought, I'm going to do this or this isn't going to work out? What was that?
yeah. Oh, several. Yeah. There were so many ups and downs. There were so many. I mean, I remember mile 15, maybe 14 and 15. I remember actually calling my mom and going, I don't know if I can do this. This sucks. This really sucks. And she was like, I know it's horrible, but just do what you can do. Don't, I think the main thing for me was I didn't pressure myself mentally at all. I was like, I kind of gave myself an out. I was like, if I need to stop, if I need to get out, I can get out. There's nobody pressuring me. Everybody will understand, So that
no
was
failure feeling for you. You're just like, look, I got as far as I could and
yeah.
good. Yeah.
So yeah, like mile 14, 15 was horrible. And then for some reason I got this huge jolt of energy probably around mile 17. I knew that some of my friends were going to be around mile 18 and I was really excited to see them. And, there are certain parts of the race where people were cheering really loud. So it's the smallest thing can give you a second wind.
So I joke about this a lot, like the idea of a marathon and not being something I could do. But if you really listen to what Alexi is saying right now, she's talking about life. Like this marathon is just a microcosmos of life. Like, things are hard sometimes. Then somebody comes along and picks you up. Sometimes you have energy, you don't know why. Sometimes you're bummed out, you don't know why. Keep going, right? Like just keep going, and it can work out. Now I saw a picture of you towards the end. You did look like you were going to die. You did. What was it like? First of all, I do want to know, like, was there a feeling, like, did you have enough in you to feel the emotional rush of finishing?
I do remember crying a little bit when I was at, I want to say mile 23. Because at that point I was like, oh my gosh,
you could run
I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to do this. Other than that, I don't feel like I was just so on autopilot and it was cold and it was, I don't think I had, the capacity to really feel the emotions on that level until that point. But, yeah.
It's like a survival thing, right?
Yeah. Your body definitely goes into survival mode, especially when you stop, like to go to the bathroom or to check your blood sugar or something. Like your body, I can't even explain to you. It feels like I'm gonna die. Like there's like room spins and like that's it's kind of like, all right, I'm gonna not stop then. Like I'm just gonna keep going.
Keep going
I had to
so
stop.
I don't feel like this. Yeah.
Exactly. There was definitely that.
What was the management like for your diabetes through the race and prior? Like, how did you get ready?
That was the worst part, is because with all the nerves and the adrenaline, pretty much all of us on the team were spiking like crazy, like right before the race. And so I kind of had to make a decision to either take more insulin or to not, and kind of see how it goes.
Yeah.
So I decided not to, which is good for me, at least, because, I had some long acting in my system. And once I started going, I immediately started dropping. And so I never want to see another like gel or energy chew for the rest of my life. And luckily I had a ton of them in my little running belt. So I think I ate all of them that I had. Like I think I had maybe like 3 pretty significant blood sugar crashes over the whole thing, which isn't terrible considering how many miles it is. But I never had to take any insulin.
If Arden gets in one of those, those days where sometimes you're just low and it won't come back. You know what I mean? Like it's that those 56 blood sugars and you feed it and it turns into a 59 blood sugar and you're like, wait, no, that's not right. You're like that kind of stuff. There's a moment where if you reached out and said, hey, you need another juice box, she'd be like, I can't. Like there's just like, it's a sickening feeling the way she describes it of, and so you're choking these down because you have to, I guess. That's terrible. So
there was Gatorade at like every 2 miles, there was water and little cups of Gatorade. So that helped. It was like just enough, it was just enough like electrolytes and carbs to kind of like,
keep you going.
Keep me going. And I did stop at the medical tent one time to get a bag of pretzels because I just could not have another like gelatinous thing in my body. So
I'm not going to suck on another one of whatever the hell this thing is, and I need something firm to sit in your stomach, like just really that makes sense. How about afterwards? Effects on your blood sugar? How long did the race impact you?
That is an interesting question because we were all of us on the team were kind of, corresponding about that. And none of us had the same experience. I was fine the night of the race. I think I had one low in the middle of the night, which wasn't a terrible low, but it was kind of like a delayed low. I ate dinner. I didn't have a spike. I didn't have a crash. It was fine. I think my body was just like in shock.
If I can, not only that, you didn't use insulin. So
no, not the whole day.
Yeah. So you were basically feeding the activity.
Yeah.
And for someone who might have seen that anxiety spike from the adrenaline and bolused it, now they're still going to have that activity and they have that insulin active in there. And it's, you weren't using a lot of insulin. When do you think the first time was you gave yourself insulin? So you had a pretty normal reaction. Did you go eat afterwards or?
I had dinner after. I went straight back to the hotel. I didn't go like out or anything. I just needed to like stop moving. So I had my friend go just grab, something for me at the deli across the street, and I ate it in bed and after a shower, and I took insulin for dinner. That was the first time I had taken insulin.
That's really interesting. It's a interesting experience you had for sure.
It is, And so in the days following, I feel like even now it's been over a week, and still I feel like I'm a little higher than I should be.
Your blood sugars.
My blood sugars, yeah. I'm still kind of experiencing a little bit of resistance. Not terrible though. I was expecting much worse. I was expecting my body to like really rebel against what had just happened. But everybody had a different experience though.
Yeah. Did people who had done it prior tell you that you might have like higher blood sugars after the race for days? Is that something you had heard?
Yeah. I was warned.
That's something. That's all crazy. And now here's the real question. Would you do it again?
Yes, that is the craziest part of all of this. I as I said, mile 14, mile 15, I was going, what am I doing? Never again. I am going to be vehemently like telling people to never do this because it's horrible. But now after the fact, I would. I would limit it like to once a year, like a full one. But if that, maybe once every couple of years. But I know this will surprise you, but I'm actually doing the Walt Disney World half marathon in January, and I had planned that even before before I had done the full marathon. Wow. But now I know I want to do it. So
plus you can do it in like ears probably. And
totally.
What would you change? What are you going to change for your next one, wrapped around diabetes that you learned from this one?
That's funny. I don't know if there's much I would change.
So like,
I think, yeah.
I'm going to say, like, just if you were a person I was talking to, the only thing that really hits me is that, a bar, like some sort of like oat or nut or something heavy that would sit in your system for I don't know how that would be while you're running, but if
you know what, I had like one, because I remember my friend who met me at mile 18 was like, what do you want? I have this and this and this. Mm-hmm. And I had like a Kind bar.
Right. That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, it did help. So I would definitely make sure to have maybe 2 of those in my running belt.
It's just such a, I mean, it worked out well for you. Like, you seem happy with how it went, honestly.
I am. Yeah. Like, when you just asked me that question, I really can't think of that much that I would do differently. Mm-hmm. Because you really can't plan that much. Like, one of the things I really kind of ended up strangely liking about it was that it's freeing in the sense that you can't really plan. You can't overanalyze. Like, I've always been a person that probably is over prepared, like I have like a million things in my purse in case I'm low, or I have extra pens, or I have backup sensors, or I definitely am always prepared. But with this, it's almost like, well, this is all I can do. I can fit this much in my running belt. My meter stopped working at one point, and I'm old school, so occasionally I tend to test for accuracy for the CGM. It stopped working because it was too cold.
It was like, so, hey lady, why don't we go inside?
Yeah, exactly. So like things like that, you can't plan for, and you can't control. Right. And if you want to finish the race, you have to just keep going with what you have. Yeah. So it was really cool. It was a cool feeling.
Yeah. No, it's just like it's jumping off a cliff, right? You're just like, I'm going, and hopefully I'll hit water and I'll pop back up, and we'll see. I think. Do you think the experience is going to inform how you manage day to day? Like, do you think you'll be a little looser about it, or?
Yes, I definitely think it will impact how I manage just routine things. Like I feel changed. I don't, I don't feel as anxious about things that I would have felt anxious about before. I feel like, I just things I might not have considered before, like, traveling certain places, or like, I'm like, yeah, oh my God, why can't I do that? I can do that. I have my mindset is a little bit shifted.
That's excellent. I mean, it sounds like it was like a big moment for you, honestly.
It was. Yeah. I think it was for anybody who does a marathon. It's a big thing.
Yeah, I'm not going to do it, just so you know.
But okay, I'm not gonna pressure you. Don't worry.
I didn't think you were. I'm a lot older than you, first of all. And,
oh, really?
Yeah, okay. I'm like 112, and so I just felt like, I'm like, oh my gosh, like maybe that window is past. But it did make me feel like there are other things that I should be trying, like listening to you. I was like, there's stuff I could be doing that I'm making excuses about. That I definitely could do. And, maybe it doesn't need to be a marathon, right? It could be something, any kind of a leap for you, honestly.
Yeah.
I like it.
Exactly.
So I did have one weird question that I didn't ask about the running. Was glucagon everywhere? Like, did everyone have one who was running with type 1? Or how did I'm assuming nobody needed one, but.
No, nobody needed one.
Was there prep?
Was there what?
Like, was it there? Did you prepare for the eventuality?
I mean, there were medical tents probably every 4 or 5 miles. I mean, I didn't bring any, like, obviously I had sugar, but I didn't bring emergency glucagon because my mom had told me, and other people who had run it had told me, that there are medics around every corner. Okay. So I definitely felt safe.
Cool. That's excellent. And I'm assuming you're trying to be streamlined as you're doing this. You're not looking to run with your iPad.
No.
I have a whole bunch of stuff with you. Is she pulling a wagon?
Right. That would have been me, like, probably 5 years ago. I would have had my wagon.
Alexi's little red wagon. Very well could end up being the title of this episode, just so that you know.
Oh, I like it. Okay.
I really appreciate you doing this. I feel like I've kept you longer than I told you I was. I'm
No,
sorry for that.
totally fine. It's been great.
Yeah. Did I not ask about anything that you're like, oh, you should be asking about this, about what I did? Did I miss it?
I guess the only thing I kind of wanted to say was, as a type 1, you have to know your body on such a level that other people just don't know what that's like. It's almost like having a sixth sense, But I never realized until running the marathon that there's a whole new level. It's, you have, there's like the line between knowing when to stop and knowing when you can push yourself further is so real. Like it's, so I just, that was just eye-opening to me, that as much as I already thought I knew my body, there's something beyond that.
Yeah.
So
I think what I took most from what you said today is that there's a decision you can make. Like, you can err on the side of caution, or you can err on the side of being bold, and I think that you'll get farther, you'll learn more, you'll probably break free of a lot of chains if you just, kind of move towards bold,
Yeah, that's what I've always respected about you and your mindset and the podcast, and how you are with your daughter. That's your thing. You're bold. And I feel like I could be bolder, and after the marathon, I think I am.
Excellent. So, that's really cool.
Yeah.
As you were talking about the things you didn't bring with you, it made me consider, because Arden's at school right now, and it made me consider, at the beginning of every school year, somebody gets online and there's photos of like, all right, I have a diabetic kid and this is how we're going to prep. And they're taking all of this stuff to the school. Like, you could keep like 4 kids with diabetes alive for 5 years with the stuff they're taking in. And,
oh my God.
And it's all prepackaged and it's labeled and it's all this stuff. And I think my daughter has a juice in her purse.
Yeah.
And, and there's some gummy candies in her purse, and then there's juice sprinkled around the building, but not a case of it. There's like 1 or 2 in each classroom, and It's really just there in case the one in her purse gets used. So wherever she is, she can like snatch another one up real quick and put it back in her purse.
Right.
That is the extent of the preparation we do.
Yeah.
The nurse doesn't have 1,000 things. There's not, like, it's just, I don't know, like, there's something about that. I get the wanting to feel that way, like protected and safe, but you got to live a whole life with diabetes, and you're not going to spend your whole life, driving out ahead of your kid, stashing juices along the way, you know, and so you kind of you got to figure out how to exist in the body you have and in the situation you have, I think.
Yeah, that was, I would say, my number one takeaway from all this.
Cool. That's really great. Well, thank you so much. If you hold on for 1 second, I have a question for you. I don't want to record.
Okay.
Is that cool? All right. Thank you. Are you wondering what I asked Alexi when I shut off the microphone? I can't tell you, but you might find out one day if everything works out well. Thanks so much to Dexcom, Omnipod, and Dancing for Diabetes for sponsoring the show. Huge appreciation. Dexcom.com/juicebox, myomnipod.com/juicebox, and dancing4diabetes.com. That's where you find out about these sponsors. One more thing. I'm sorry about the audio. It broke my heart. But I loved the interview and I didn't want to scrap it. And I'm so sorry. You may not have even cared after it got going, but I take a lot of pride in how the show sounds, and it made me sad. Anyway, we'll be back on Friday with Ask Scott and Jenny, I think. And then right on to the end of the year. I have some very cool stuff planned for 2020 that's already underway. I can't wait to get that to you. But first, we have to live through these weeks and months. I can't fast forward through life. Hey, I want to shout out everybody at the JDRF Kansas City chapter that had me out to speak this past weekend. Had a fantastic time. It was wonderful meeting every one of you. And for somebody who left a review on Canadian iTunes just because they wanted a shout out, I happened to see it. I don't usually see Canadian iTunes, but anyway, here's your shout out, even though I don't remember your name. I'm sorry, but you know it's you. So You keep that pride in your heart. You let somebody listen to this right now and go, this guy right here, he's talking about me. Because I am. I'm talking about you.